Welcome, everyone, and thank you, community members, for joining to learn about the Lenape Regional High School District bond referendum, which is included on the November 2nd general election ballot. I'm Matthew Webb, Assistant Superintendent of Schools, and I'll be the moderator for tonight's virtual community forum. But first, we'd like to introduce the panelists who are joining us this evening, who will review financial benefits of funding projects through a bond referendum, as well as a list of proposed projects and how they will benefit students, staff, and the LRHSD communities. Dr. Birnbaum, Superintendent of Schools, Connie Stewart, Business Administrator, Heather Anakis, Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Tony Voro, Director of Buildings and Grounds, and Brad Bauer, Seneca Principal. Other important people tonight are the ones who are watching this via YouTube live stream. Here's how they can submit questions for our panelists. You can visit lrhsd.org/forum question. That will be along the bottom of the screen throughout the forum. Complete the form so we know which panelist should get that question. Listen for the full hour because we will try to group questions together by topic. And that form asks for an email address so we can send you an answer in the event that we don't have time to get to it in our 1-hour forum. This is going to be a great way for our community to learn more about this bond referendum. And Dr. Carol Birnbaum can introduce our Board of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. And it is great to be here speaking to all of you about our bond referendum. And we have an 11-member board, but I would just like to highlight the board members that directly support Seneca High School, live in the towns that you're familiar with. We have Mr. Charles Roseborough from Southampton. We have Mr. Sam Green from Chemung, Mrs. Cookie Eslow from Woodland Township. We have Dr. Skip Bende from Tabernacle. And of course, we have our president of our Board of Education, Mr. Barry Fitzgerald. All of our board members are very interested in hearing your feedback tonight. So please remember to submit those questions. And we're really excited that you're interested in our bond referendum. This is just one way, this forum, that we are getting the word out about all of the exciting projects in this forum and the great zero impact to our taxpayers in our communities. We have been working on this probably since last spring when we gathered our members of our community forum. Those were our parents, our township leaders, our staff, and of course our students, because student voice is very important in the Lenape Regional High School District. Since then, every board meeting, we've been updating the public on all of the exciting news about the bond referendum. We've created an extensive website, which you can see videos that have great little snippets about all the little programs in our project. It has a great extensive frequently asked questions page. Of course, we're on social media. We are on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. We hope that you follow those and repost those as well. We've done a mailer to every household in the 8 townships in the Lenape Regional High School District. We've been attending events, all like Oktoberfests at Marlton and Mount Laurel and Medford, handing out flyers, just trying to gather interest. And it's been great speaking to the public about that. And people have been emailing us questions, and between the business administrator, Ms. Stewart, and I, we've been calling people back and asking them, and it's been really exciting getting the word out. So again, this forum is just one of the many ways that we're trying to educate the public on the bond referendum. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Birnbaum. But first, let's briefly answer, what is a bond referendum? It's a vote to approve the sale of bonds, and school districts can sell bonds to generate funding and buy them back with interest over time. It's similar to a home equity loan to make improvements and pay that loan back over years. And the timing is just right. We're approaching a payoff point from a previous bond, and we now have the ability, this unique opportunity, to get 1/3 of the cost of our projects covered in state aid. This way we can update and enhance all of our schools with zero change to the tax rate. Dr. Birnbaum and Mrs. Stewart, how did we get to this point where the Lenape Regional has a bond proposal on the November 2nd ballot?
I'm sorry I had to unmute myself. I apologize. Well, first, Mr. Webb, one thing that we did do, we have a long-range facility plan, and that plan, which has been approved by the state of New Jersey, it identifies all of our future facility needs so they can be addressed strategically over time.
Yeah, another way that we've gathered the what that's in the bond referendum was through community input. In 2018, we had a strategic planning a program that we were working on, and we held community forums where we had over 400 people come to our high schools and over 1,000 people answer surveys. And air conditioning and programs for career pathways consistently came up. So those were must-haves in this bond referendum, according to our students and our community members.
We also had looking at our fiscal strategies, and we needed to be able to meet the immediate and long-term needs of our facilities. And with careful planning to select projects that could qualify for a maximum state aid, but only through a voter-approved bond referendum can we access this special type of state aid.
Outstanding, thank you. Let's talk about how to vote so everyone knows how to vote in advance and on November 2nd.
Well, the one thing you want to do is look for the big question on the ballot, right? So it's going to be part of the general election, the November 2nd election. There'll be a question, it'll be in a box, and it'll say the Lenape Regional High School District question. And it's just one question. And it explains what the projects are and what the cost of those projects are and how much state aid will be in those projects. And there's lots of different ways to vote this year. New this year is they've added more dates for in-person voting. So you can start to vote in person starting October 23rd all the way up to Halloween. There's 7 different locations in Burlington County that anyone can go to who lives in Burlington County. That's one way. The other way, of course, is by absentee ballot. So you can make sure you look for it on the absentee ballot. On some of it, it's on the back of the absentee ballot. So you have to make sure you flip it over and look for the question, because your opinion won't really matter unless you cast that vote. And then, of course, on November 2nd at your regular polling place, you can always just march in there and vote. Just one of those ways, not all of those ways, just one of those ways.
Thank you, Dr. Birnbaum. That is a lot of detail about voting, but it's so important. All the details on lrhsd.org/vote, including an application form for a mail-in ballot, the times and locations for those special early voting polls, and a link to search for your polling place on November 2nd. As a reminder, the public can submit questions to the panelists. Just visit lrhsd.org/forum question. Also, this forum is being recorded so that people can watch it later. A link to that recording will be available on the referendum website. Now, before we get into the specifics on the referendum, we'd like to share a video that gives a good overview of what the Lenape Regional could do at all 4 schools. It's about 5 minutes long, and then we'll explain how we can make these improvements with no change to the tax rates in any of our communities.
We have a plan to modernize all our schools, and property owners will incur zero, that's right, zero new taxes. On Tuesday, November 2nd, the Lenape Regional High School District will ask voters to consider a bond referendum. Only through this type of vote can we access more than $24 million in state aid to help pay for over 1/3 of our capital project costs. Our plan calls for updating building exteriors and instructional spaces, replacing HVAC systems and adding air conditioning, customizing classrooms to expand career-focused curriculum, and upgrading athletic facilities with LED lighting at all schools and turf fields at Lenape and Seneca. With voter approval of this tax-neutral bond proposal, we can tackle these projects and more with zero change to the tax rates in all Lenape District communities.
We can keep the tax impact to zero, largely because the projects in our bond referendum qualify for over $24 million in a special type of state aid. This is money we either use it or lose it. This special type of state aid is only available to us through a voter-approved bond referendum, and it's a different pot of money than the money that we've seen continuously cut by the state through our school funding formula.
That $24 million, combined with old debt reaching its payoff point, results in $67 million worth of improvements with zero change in tax rates. Proposed projects are considered must-haves for the district. They're on the district's long-range facilities plan, and many were also mentioned by community members during the 2018 strategic planning process. Students, staff, and visitors will appreciate seeing air conditioning on the project list. All 4 schools would get upgraded heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, replacing some systems that are over 60 years old.
Upgrading our HVAC systems will enable us to run more efficiently, to have better control, to temper air better, to have more air efficiency into our buildings, be overall more effective for the learning environment. It'll also save us a lot of money in the long run. We have systems that range from mid-50s to the 70s to the 90s. Newer equipment runs more efficiently. It requires less maintenance. Now's the time to do it. I mean, if we have the ability to get 1/3 of that money back, it's a win-win.
The heat just really takes a toll, not only on your physical health, but your mental health. It's just a lot to worry about when you're inside and trying to focus on your schoolwork.
Newer HVAC systems will also further improve comfort levels, student focus, and air filtration and flow.
10 million students a year miss school days because of asthma. We need to have air conditioning. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity.
Another set of projects in the referendum involves customizing classrooms and adding equipment for career-focused learning. Regardless of home high school, the LRHSD will open its expanded career pathway programs to any district student.
We realize that not all of our students' career goals will require a college degree, and we aim to support those students and their training for high-demand positions in our newly renovated educational spaces, as well as providing internship opportunities to provide hands-on experiences for those students.
You still get the traditional high school experience, sporting events, school spirit, all of that, but then also you can get a certification and really learn your trade.
The exteriors of our schools are also due for some maintenance, as are the athletic facilities. The bond proposal calls for turf fields at both Lenape and Seneca. This would create equity among the athletic facilities at all district high schools. And turf is the modern standard for high schools. Athletes who play on grass can be at a significant disadvantage during high school and at college.
It's great for any sport at any season. It doesn't matter if it's rain or shine, if it's hot or cold, you get a consistent surface to play on.
The capital projects in our bond referendum directly support our specific plans to ensure the future of the Lenape Regional High School District. Even replacing aging systems such as water heaters are carefully timed out so that costs don't pile up. Part of that careful timing is to fund these projects through a voter-approved bond referendum, which gives us access to that special type of state aid, over $24 million to the Lenape Regional High School District, about 1/3 of the cost of the entire project. This will ensure we can invest in the future of all of our schools in the Lenape Regional High School District. It's a plus for all homeowners, and it has zero tax impact.
To learn more about the proposal, follow LRHSD Vote on social media and visit lrhsd.org/vote for additional details and voting information. The Lenape Regional High School District bond proposal will be on the general election ballot, with mail-in voting starting in early October and in-person voting beginning October 23rd. The final date to cast a vote is Election Day, Tuesday, November 2nd.
That's some exciting stuff for the future of Lenape Regional. We'll get into more details about those projects in a few minutes. But first, let's learn how a bond referendum is part of a strategic approach to funding. For that, we turn to Ms. Stewart, the district's business administrator.
Thank you, Matt. Excuse me. There are 2 financial elements that are falling into place at this time that makes this a perfect time for us to update our schools. First, we have the ability to be eligible for that special state aid. And second, for the existing debt that we have is being paid off. The debt service state aid that we are eligible for is only available if we have a voter-approved bond referendum, because this help offsets the cost of these capital improvements. We are constantly looking ahead for our needs that will be in the future for our schools. As an example, our current HVAC systems, they are getting too old to be effective or reliable. Along with other improvements on our long-range facility plan, we package these projects into a bond referendum that could result in that special state aid. Our initial estimate of a near zero tax impact was extremely conservative. From our long-range facility plan of the projects needed now, 5 or 10 years out, we were able to streamline those projects into the package that was sent to the Department of Education for their approval. Only the state can determine what projects are eligible for this special state aid. When we received our final eligibility cost letters from the State Department of Ed, they approved almost the entire package of the projects to receive this aid. And after giving this really great news to our financial advisors, they were able to plug in the new state aid numbers into their estimated cost analysis, and they came up with a zero tax impact. There are 2 buckets of funds that make up our total tax levy. And for this year, that total tax levy is over $129 million. 95% of that, about over $122 million, is for the general operating fund. The other 5%, a little over $6 million, is for the debt service. If the referendum passes, these percentages between the general fund and the debt service will remain constant between 95 and 5. If the referendum does not pass, these percentages go to a 97% general fund and down to 3% for debt service. The first year that the debt is paid off, that net tax levy will decrease, but the amount is so minimal compared to the percentages of the 2 different buckets of money, the taxpayers will not see much of a decrease at all. Each year, the general fund can increase up to 2%. That increase will be in excess of $2 million when the debt falls off, and the debt decrease will be about $2.6 million. That's virtually no change at all in 1 year. But with the voter approval, we will have a consistent debt service tax levy and receive $24 million from the state to offset the $67 million of projects. Without voter approval, we will not receive the $24 million in that special state aid. These projects must be done at some point in the future. So if not through the approved bond referendum, these projects will need to be paid for out of the general fund, no state aid to offset the costs, which means these will need to be done. These will mean that things will need to be taken away in order for us to update our facilities. Having a zero tax impact for debt service tax levy will continue the approximate payments that we have been paying for years.
I'd just like to add to that, Connie, what we're talking about, this aid that we're getting for these projects, we talk about how it's from a different bucket of money. Our school district has been chronically underfunded, right, for our general operating budget. We are part of a S2 district. There's over 200 districts in New Jersey who are seeing state aid being taken away by the millions each year. That's us. So, as our taxpayers are sending money to Trenton, they're collecting it and putting it in this bucket for capital improvements. And only if the voters approve this bond referendum can we get that money. So, this is a great opportunity. They're collecting that money anyway. So why not have that opportunity for us to finally get some state aid towards these projects? And you make a great point. Some of these projects need to be done anyway. So they're either going to be done at 100% cost out of our general operating budget, or at 70% of the cost with debt falling off and state aid at zero tax impact. So, I think that I want to just repeat what you said about the timing. It's just perfect right now to do this. And remember, it's that different pot of money. And, it's time for the Lenape Regional High School District to see some state aid really help us. And this would be wonderful if this passes. We'll be able to get that state aid.
That's absolutely correct, Carol. And state aid is a key factor in our ability to do these projects without raising the tax rate. The proposed project costs are an estimate of $67 million, with the state covering 1/3 of these costs, $24 million. So again, if we don't use it, we lose it. The difference of the $43 million will be covered by the same tax rate that exists now. The approach uses a continuous tax rate to fund the continuous costs for maintaining our excellent schools. The bottom line, with state aid and a steady tax rate, we get $67 million worth of upgrades with a zero tax change. Could we ask the voters for more? Yes, we could. But our long-range facility plan does have projects 10 years out, and we are planning for the future of LRHSD when more debt will be near the payoff at that time. With our long-range facility plan and the decision to pursue a bond referendum, which would open the door again for new state aid, this is part of Lenape's well-thought-out strategy to fund our schools' needs in the most effective way possible. We do not want to ask for more than what is needed at this time. We know we will have future opportunities that debt will be paid off and to reinvest the corresponding tax rates. This strategy helps us to reduce the financial impact to our communities and continue to be fiscal responsible by addressing some of the most immediate facility needs.
Thank you. We have a couple of questions. Question number one, would the tax rate fall if voters reject the proposal?
The debt service tax levy, as I pointed out earlier, would decrease by about 3.6 million. So, but with the increase of the general fund, I'm sorry, it was 2 million, a little over 2 million. The debt service tax levy would be reduced by a little over 3 million. But again, it would only be for 1 year because the 2% general fund tax levy would come up to about $2 million. So you have about $600,000 in 1 year that you would see a decrease. You spread that out on $129 million tax levy. That's really not a large percentage of a decrease in your taxes for 1 year.
And also, sorry, just don't forget, we still need to do some of these projects, right? We've got systems that are over 60 years old. So we aren't going to see a decrease really in the total operating budget because some of these projects are going to need to be done one way or the other.
Correct.
That makes perfect sense. One more question for finance. What was the previous debt for?
The previous debt was for another bond referendum that we did, I believe it was back in 2005. And our bonds are normally out for 20 years. So this is the time that that debt is falling off and we can just have new debt replace it.
Thank you, Mrs. Stewart and Dr. Birnbaum. As a reminder, the public can submit questions for the panelists. Visit lrhsd.org/forum question. Also, this forum is being recorded, so people can watch it later. A link to that recording will be on the referendum website. Now we'll turn it over to Anthony Voro, our Director of Buildings and Grounds, to begin the discussion of projects we would fund through a bond referendum, starting with upgraded heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems at all 4 schools.
Hi, everyone. So the largest portion of this entire project is the HVAC system. So just imagine in all of our facilities, how much air we have to move, how comfortable we have to make everybody. So the largest portion, again, of this project is HVAC upgrades. We try our best, as a maintenance team, we do a wonderful job, but from aging systems from 60 years old to, current times, it's just not, it's not feasible. And we've done our best. We save old parts to keep parts around for the systems that are so old that we can't get parts for. And that's just not economical, and it's not feasible to try and do that. Upgrading our systems now will, I don't know if everyone notices it, or it's maybe my age, but it seems to be getting hotter outside. Every year it just gets that much hotter. So imagine being in your house with no air conditioning. I don't think there's many people out there that sit in a 90-degree day inside their house without air conditioning. So trying to learn in that environment is not conducive to education at all. So you try not to pay attention to, what's going on at class. You try to pay attention, but you can't because you're sweating. So even the teachers, it's very difficult to do it in the heat. So now's the time to try and do this. If we're getting money, now's the time to do it. And it's just going to be better for everybody. There's people, it's not just about air conditioning either. Like upgrading our HVAC systems is going to give us an opportunity also to maintain what gives us heat. So it's not just air conditioning in the summertime, it's heat in the winter. If we can't provide heat for the schools, we're not going to be able to teach. So by law, we need heat. By law, we don't need air conditioning, but it's a good thing to have. And, now's the time to do it. Also climate control. So in these upgrades, we're going to have the ability to control the climate hands-on, not by manually going to each unit and adjusting that temperature in that unit in our older systems, or we're going to be able to monitor when that actual system breaks, and we're going to know before it. When it gives us a problem, it's going to give us hands-on through an iPhone or through an iPad, real time what's going on with the system, and at variable degrees, meaning it'll give us airflow, it'll give us air temperature, it'll give us all different things to maintain the environment for education. So with that said, it's going to help a lot of kids, especially ones that have, disabilities with breathing and asthma and things like that. Now's the time to do it. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, to back up Tony on a couple of things that he said. He talked a little bit about how our buildings are hot. And I think the biggest thing for us is that most of our students are coming from middle schools and elementary schools that are air conditioned. And they don't realize when they come to Seneca that we don't have air conditioning. So, when trying to adjust to a new school and being a freshman coming in, it's just one more thing that they need to consider, or they need to adjust to when transitioning to high school. And for me, the bigger issue as a principal is the educational impact it has for our students. Our students are taking high stakes tests, for example, the AP test, which is given in the spring. And during these times, our building is really, really hot, and it creates an uncomfortable environment when things really do matter for our students. So the educational impact for me is real for our students.
Thank you. We have a couple of questions. Question number one, why isn't the maintenance of these systems covered in the regular operating budget?
I can start, and Connie, please add in. Budget is your wheelhouse. But these facilities, they need constant update and constant maintenance, and that is part of our operational budget. And we budget for that, and we maintain those systems. And the Director of Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Voro, already spoke to how excellent our maintenance staff is at making sure that they are tending to all of our items on a regular basis throughout our large facilities. But that being said, there's some large ticket items that you just can't absorb in a regular operational budget. And we'd rather not absorb 100% of those costs. We'd rather take advantage of the state aid to do that. And that's part of our fiscal strategic planning. Not only do you budget for these in your general operating budget, but you look out long-term, and when is old debt falling off, and when can we time these big projects when that old debt is falling off, and then take advantage and get 30% of this of the project covered by the state. I don't know if I've covered everything or not, Connie. Anything you want to add to that?
very close, Carol. But again, with this voter approved bond referendum and being able to get 70% of the cost done by a bond, but through the state aid, if we went ahead and tried to budget all of these types of projects, whether we do a few here or a few there, year after year after year, again, with the state aid loss that you mentioned previously from that other bucket of money, we would then have to take away from the learning experience of our students in order to budget regular maintenance on these items that with a bond referendum, we would be able to take care of it all in one shot and not have to put that additional burden on the taxpayers or take away from the education of the students.
Thank you. We have one more question related to HVAC. I think would be perfect for Mr. Voro. Mr. Voro, the question is why not wait until the HVAC systems actually break instead of assuming they will?
So, you know, the word maintenance means maintain. So we don't wait for things to break. So our job is to maintain a facility that's educationally sound. So walk into a school, it has proper temperature, it has lights, it has everything that you need to operate an educational environment. That's what we do. We maintain. It's just becoming more difficult to do that with, you know, with the need to save old parts. Think about that. Like saving old parts is not the way to run things. And, you know, if in the 23 years that I've been here that we're saving parts, it's telling me that those parts aren't even going to be available any longer. So with the inability to get parts and have to save them, and then we're going to run out of those old parts, everyone's going to realize what happened next. So we maintain, that's our job. We maintain as best as we can. You know, you want to plan ahead. She talked about the long range facility plan. We plan ahead to maintain. I'm going to keep pushing that word maintenance because that's what our function is, to maintain. So now's the time to do it. If we get a third of that money back, think about, you know, that $24 million, what it can be put towards to, you know, to upgrade our systems. That's a need. That's not a want, that's a need. And, you know, it's not us looking for something to fix. It needs to be fixed. If we want to continue to educate kids at the highest level that we are teaching at, well, we're going to need this funding to do that. It's important that, you know, we plan ahead to do that. If I don't plan ahead for things that I know are gonna live past their life expectancy, then, you know, I'm not doing my job and nor is my staff. So it's all part of maintaining large facilities. We have projects, the HVAC projects that, you know, if this is passed on November 2nd, they're going to start in the summer of 22 and they're going to run through the year 2024, 25. It's a large project. We're going to impact, you know, every building, you know, throughout the whole process. But what we're not going to do is impact the educational process. So, you know, when we schedule work such as this, we have to realize we're still educating people. So if you see projects stretch out longer than you would expect them to, it's because we can't just go in and take up an entire space and work without impacting, you know, the educational process. So things take time, but when it's done, it'll be a much better place for everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Voro. We just had another question come in, and I think this is also up your alley, Mr. Voro. The question is, will all of the rooms in the school be air conditioned once the improvements have been implemented?
Yes, every educational space will be air conditioned, with bonus places too. So, you know, they're educational spaces. The gyms are educational spaces, but those are areas that, you know, commonly aren't air conditioned, and we use them for graduations. We use them for large events, and we really put a lot of people in there, and those spaces need to be air conditioned. If we're gonna, we're gonna air condition our buildings, the units that run those facilities, those rooms need to be changed out. And, we plan ahead to, our major plant systems, to accommodate that over the years. So we're gonna make some changes to those plants, and we're gonna air condition those spaces too. And that's a want also from the committees. So, that's something, we need to continue to follow through on. I hope that
Thank
answers
you.
your question.
Absolutely, Mr. Voro, and I agree. I definitely remember hearing feedback from the strategic planning process that air conditioning was a priority. So thank you. Mr. Voro, can you please talk a little bit about the proposed projects in the referendum that will impact our athletic facilities?
Yeah, so part of the athletic facilities, we're doing turf. Turf, let's just touch on the maintenance of grass itself. So you're cutting grass, you're maintaining fertilization, you're getting rid of weeds, you're filling divots, you're having divots in there that you don't see that can cause injury, things such as that. The maintenance of that alone is a lot of work in itself. And then think about when you put a turf field out there. I'm not going to get into the specifics of other things, but I'm going to talk about the maintenance part. And I think Dr. Birnbaum will go into the other parts of this turf referendum. But we're maintaining, we put a turf field that does 5 sports. We never have to paint that again. It's all done. Those kids, you can go from one sport to another right after. It could be raining, it could be pouring out, it doesn't matter. There's no degradation of that field as far as weather impact. And that's a plus. I mean, sometimes our facilities, I mean, we're a big sports district, and a lot of sports are being played on our facilities. And to have facilities, and we've seen it in the 2 other schools. We've seen it where, we're paying one sport after another. The community comes in right after we leave, and then they leave and we come back in again. You can't do that on grass. This time of the year, spring coming up, you're not going to do that on grass. And it impacts us negatively, in our sports programs. And I think it's time that, we brought that to the other schools.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on Mr. Voro. As a former athletic director and now principal, many of our schools across the state have now transitioned to turf, which puts our athletes at a disadvantage, not only for high school, but also for college. As we all know, the game on turf and on grass is much different. But I think turf would also allow us to host NJSIA semifinals and finals games, which is now a requirement by the state association for this level of competition. And in fact, this year, and I believe soon to be mandatory, all NJSIA tournament field hockey games, they're recommending that they be played on turf. And, coming from a successful field hockey school, our girls, work hard all year to get that high seed, and then told in the state tournament that, sorry, you got to play on an opposing field on turf. It wouldn't be fair to our kids. So I think, we really are at a disadvantage, and weather's a huge issue. Again, 12 years as athletic director, I was forced to make many changes of games, and I would be canceling games, and I'd call over to either one of our sister schools or other schools across the South Jersey, and they're playing games on turf. And then when you reschedule those games, what happens is you're usually forced to cancel a game. So now our kids are missing out on opportunities to play as well. But this also goes beyond athletics. I think everybody thinks athletics, and our band competitions are on our football stadium. We just had one this past weekend, and luckily we had good weather and they were able to use our field. But we've had many years over the past 12 years where the band was forced to be on the track and not be allowed to use the field because of whether it was wet or, the playing field wasn't, conducive for the band. So we moved them to the turf, and then really it's not fair to them. And, being able to, provide the turf for them so that there's really no question about them being on the turf, I think is awesome. And it also goes, beyond our school, right? It goes to our youth programs. The kids in our communities don't have the opportunity to play on turf. And being a parent as well in our community, I would love to be able to offer that to our kids, right? To throw it out to our field hockey and our soccer and our football and our lacrosse, and just give them an opportunity to not only play on turf, to be at Seneca High School and to play in a stadium and to feel that sense of community that we feel every day. So it reaches beyond Seneca High School, and it reaches into our community as well.
And just like our gymnasiums are used all day because PE is a requirement every 4 years, every student will benefit from this, not just the athletes, because we'll be able to hold PE outside on the turf. We do a lot of events already out there in the stadium, but they're always weather dependent. And you mentioned the field hockey team, but and I'm glad you mentioned band because they're on a tear. They have like 4 wins in a row. So I think it would be great to have Seneca's band on turf. It'll be wonderful for everybody, our spectators and our performers out there to see sure footing of all band members.
Absolutely.
And we're also part of that outdoor projects is LED lighting at all 4 stadiums. The LED lighting is, obviously it's the new thing the last 10 years. It changes every week. The technology is just incredible. But what we're going to put out there is requiring little to no maintenance. And it's just more efficient, and it'll be better lighting out there too for our athletes. So and also part of it is press boxes. We're going to change out 2 press boxes. Lenape and Cherokee will be getting upgraded press boxes, and Shawnee's is going to be renovated. And that's all the outdoor facility stuff.
Thank you for that overview and insight, Mr. Voro, Mr. Bauer, and Dr. Birnbaum. As we mentioned earlier, we went through a strategic planning process in 2018, and that helped us gather input from many stakeholders across our district, including more than 1,000 community members. This helped us set future goals for the district. One thing that constantly came up was the need for enhanced career-focused programming to support the interest and ambitions of all Lenape Regional students. Our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Mrs. Heather Anakis, will now discuss how our bond proposal includes funding for in-district career pathway programs.
Hi, everyone. We've been focused on 2 graduations for a long time in the Lenape High School District. One graduation from high school, one from college. And we also know that we want to ensure the students who are looking for opportunities that might not require a college degree to reach their goals. So we want to help them reach those goals. And so one of the ways we can do that is by strengthening our career pathways program, by adding more experiences for those students, upgrading some of our educational spaces, be it with technology and industry standard equipment, and forging partnerships with local businesses and companies so we can work alongside and give our students opportunities to see what's out there and what they can be working towards. So those are some of the big ideas, and really preparing our students to fill a need that exists currently in our world. So specifically drilling down on some specifics, what we're looking at for our career pathway program is a couple different enhanced programs. The one at Seneca will be the automotive technology, and they already have, there is an automotive program existing at Seneca now, very successful, but we will overhaul that existing space and make it cutting edge. We're going to work with local businesses and see what specifically our students need to prepare and to be ready to move right into a job and work alongside that as their upperclassmen, and then be ready and prepared to move right into sort of into a position. So that would be the Seneca program. At Cherokee, we are going to begin a carpentry program. Again, there's woodworking there now, but this would be a comprehensive carpentry program. And then at Lenape High School, we're looking at a metal fabrication welding piece to their program that exists now. And what happens is any student attending any of our schools could attend one of these career pathway programs at a different location. And so that is something new and different that we are looking to, again, coming out of the strategic plan. What we heard is there is a need and we have students interested, and they would still be part of the Lenape Regional High School District. But maybe if there's a student who would be in Marlton, but they're interested in the automotive program, then they could participate in that at Seneca High School. So those are three of our career pathways that we have identified. And the idea is that we would create these enhanced experiences for students and line up the programs for them. Just a couple stats, if you will, just to demonstrate the need. Recently, there was a study put out by Automotive News that by the year 2024, there will be a shortage of 642,000 positions that would be needed for the diesel and the collision tech industry. So again, that covers that's a broad brush stroke, but there is a need. And one that we hope that we could prepare students right out of Seneca High School with a certification they can move right into an automotive program. Just in general, coming off of the pandemic, what we know is there are a lot of job openings. And what we want to do is we want to prepare our students to be ready and have the experiences so they can jump in right after high school. So the big idea is give kids an enhanced experience, something that they're interested in, and open more pathways for them.
Yeah, and just to follow up on Mrs. Anakis, in terms of Seneca High School, for those of you who don't know, we just started our first cohort of 13 freshmen into our brand new ASE auto certification program here, and really excited about the program. And you know, it's great that students after 4 years will leave with an entry-level certification and can go directly into the workforce. We've got a lot of great feedback from our students. Yes, our facilities need to be upgraded, and then we're really excited about this opportunity. But we're also excited to offer our students the possibility of expanding this program with our other schools in terms of carpentry or with welding and metalworking at Cherokee and at Lenape. So I think it's really important for our school and for our community that we continue to engage those students who may not be working towards college to meet their future goals. So this is really important for our school, and I'm really excited about this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer and Mrs. Anakis. We do have one question. What is the benefit of having students attend career pathway programs within the district rather than at a county vocational technical school? Mrs. Anakis?
So there's lots of good answers for that. What I would say is that the students get to come to a traditional high school with amazing opportunities. The sports, the clubs, the activities, their access to all our full litany of program of study opportunities. They have this wealth of opportunities, as well as being able to drill down to what they are interested in and study. So it's almost like the best of both worlds. They get to stay in their town, in their community where they want to go, and be part of the Lenape Regional High School District, as well as obtaining a certification perhaps, or hands-on experiences, job opportunities, and forge those relationships with the local businesses. So I could go on for that for a long time, but that's the highlight.
Yeah, well, and I would add to that. I mean, you heard Joey Webb in the video talk about, how you be able to go to school with your friends that you grew up with. You grew up maybe coming to Friday night football games at Seneca High School, and you thought you'd always be a Seneca Golden Eagle. And then you decided, I really want to focus on a career pathway program. And we didn't have comprehensive career pathway programs before. We have vocational programs, right? But they're dabble in, dabble out, or maybe some kind of crafty things. But these are concentrated programs where kids are going to leave with cooperative work experience, partnerships in the communities, and at Seneca High School, the ASC certification. So I think being able to go to school where you grow up and what you envisioned as a little one, and seeing that come to fruition and meet your educational goals is going to be a plus for some of these students who are making those decisions in 8th grade.
Thank you. Upgraded HVAC systems and athletic facilities and the expansion of career pathway programs are among the most significant projects in the Lenape Regional Bond Referendum. But the full list also includes many projects to update interior and exterior appearances for both improved efficiency and learning experiences for our students. Mr. Voro can now briefly cover some of these additional projects.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Yeah, another significant part of this project is the upgrading of interior lighting to LED. That would include all LED lighting in hallways, offices, all the classrooms. Again, I talked about LEDs outside, and again, they're an effective tool for saving money, cost savings, lower maintenance costs, and also they're effective. They help you see better. So LED lighting is is on the rise, as I stated, and we want to upgrade our systems, with the best lighting available, as well as something that's conducive to the educational process. Other than that, we're going to renovate classrooms at some of our facilities. Lenape, Cherokee, Shawnee, our oldest facilities, are going to get upgraded classroom spaces, science rooms, things like that. We're going to, even though Seneca is our newest facility, I'm going to mention the word maintenance again. So part of maintaining our facilities is doing maintenance even on our newest facility. So we have a lot of water that comes and goes through rain at Seneca, and that water has to go somewhere. So if you've ever been at Seneca, there's a lot of retention ponds to hold that water. Some of the retention ponds need some maintenance. They've overgrown, and they get away on you, and they're larger maintenance projects. That's not something that we could, again, throw into our regular general fund to try and do. And to upgrade it through this referendum is the time to do it for us. So we're going to do some exterior work, cosmetic work on columns and some brickwork. Again, it's maintenance. So we want to maintain the newest facility so it ages out just like the older ones are. We want Seneca to be around as long as Lenape's been. So let's put our money to the good stuff. And as far as other projects, it's the list is extensive, but just to touch on those things, those are the items that you're going to see mostly done in the classrooms. Let me mention the locker rooms too. So locker rooms at Lenape are going to be upgraded. We'll mention that again at another time, but yep, it's so far the majority.
Thank you, Mr. Voro. We'll now answer some additional questions about the bond referendum on November 2nd. If you haven't sent a question in yet, you can please feel free to do that now. We'll do our best to answer before wrapping up at 6 o'clock. And if not, we'll answer your questions by email. To submit a question, as a reminder, visit lrhsd.org/forum question. And also, this forum is being recorded so people can watch it later. And a link to that recording will be on the referendum website. Okay, we have a question. Why aren't these items planned for within the regular budget?
I'll tackle that one a little bit, and I'm sure Mr. Voro will jump in because he's always very on top of all of his projects and the maintenance of these projects. In order to put these types of projects in our regular budget, it's just too costly. These are millions and millions and millions of dollars to do these maintenance or upgrades. Again, if we do that in the general fund, we would have to take away from other areas within the budget in order to compensate and make these repairs and maintenance on all of these items. Again, it's the perfect timing for us to be able to have this bond referendum, to be able to maintain a tax neutral and still get $67 million worth of projects to be done, where $24 million of it, the state will compensate us for. So now is the time to do it. It's not that we can't do it through the general fund, but it's too much. It's way too much money that's out there that has to be taken care of. $67 million is a lot of money to be able to do projects in a couple of years and try to expand it over the time. Things will, as Mr. Voro said, the maintenance on these items, we're not going to be able to keep them up because we just can't get the parts. They are just not efficient. It'll cost more money in the long run if we don't upgrade them now.
Thank you, Mrs. Stewart. Looks like we have another question. Why not ask for more money and make improvements since the projected tax impact is zero?
Yeah, our communications committee members asked us those very same questions, right? Once they saw that at the time we were having discussions, it was near zero. And then through the summer, and working with bond counsel and being very confident that the rates are going to be so low, and the state approving more projects than we thought they would approve for state aid, brought that down to exactly zero. We got those questions like, why aren't we adding more? There's a couple of reasons for that, right? Number one, these projects have to be linked to our long range facilities plan. So they have to be something that we thought of and planned out and timed out appropriately that we would be able to budget for through the bond referendum process. The other thing is too, these projects, we got confirmed by our community at our community engagement series through the strategic planning process that some of these things are the things that they want to see in their schools. They love their schools, but they can make them a little bit better if we had air conditioning and if we had career pathways and other things like that. So those are two reasons. But the other thing is too, right, it's COVID, and the pandemic affected families in many different ways, and some were affected financially. And the last thing we want to do as a school district is burden anybody with any additional costs for things that we didn't plan for. So we wanted to stick to our plans, and we wanted to be sensitive to the financial diversity that we have in our 8 townships in the Lenape Regional High School District.
Thank you, Dr. Birnbaum. And as we get ready to wrap up here, we want to thank our community members for taking the time tonight to learn about Lenape Regional's bond referendum before casting your vote in the November 2nd general election. We know the interest and the involvement in our community shows in the LRHSD and makes us even stronger. If you have additional questions, you may find your answer on lrhsd.org/vote website. Also follow LRHSD Vote on social media. And finally, you can email additional questions to vote@lrhsd.org. Thank you to the panelists, and again to the public who turned out tonight. As we have said, a link to this recording will be on the referendum website. Good night, everyone.